What if I told you that love could be so strong, so blinding, that it might make someone cross the line between the living and the dead? Imagine a woman so swept up in her dreams of marriage, so determined to tie her happiness to the man she thought was her destiny, that she ignored every whisper, every warning, every strange shadow that trailed him. In Nigeria, stories like this don't come from the wild imagination of novelists. They come from the firesides, from grandmother's lips, from the soil of communities that know the unseen is just as real as what we touch. This is the story of a woman who married a ghost, and it begins not with terror, but with the kind of romance you'd swear was written by the stars. She was young, beautiful, and from a family who had given up hope that she'd ever find the right husband. Years had passed, suitors had come and gone, some too proud, some too poor, some simply not right. Then one day, in a way that felt almost like fate, he appeared. A man tall and gentle, his voice like rain after a long dry season. He knew the right words, the right gifts, the perfect smile that disarmed her doubts. People in the village asked where he had come from. He wasn't from there, they knew that much, but he seemed prosperous, well-spoken, refined in a way that caught everyone's attention. To her family, he was the answer to their prayers, the long-awaited son-in-law. To her, he was everything she had dreamed of. When he asked for her hand, she didn't hesitate. Weddings in Nigeria are not just ceremonies, they are carnivals of color, food, music, and dance. The day arrived, and it was like the whole town came alive with celebration. The bride's smile glowed brighter than the candles. Her laughter rose above the drums. But even amid the joy, some noticed peculiar things. He didn't eat much. He danced, but never seemed to sweat. His family was nowhere to be found, though he explained it away with excuses about distance and duty. People brushed off the unease. After all, love has a way of making us blind to what hides in plain sight. The marriage began smoothly enough. He brought her gifts, gold jewelry, fabrics of dazzling beauty, food in abundance. They lived in a house that seemed to appear out of nowhere, fully furnished, almost too perfect, but the villagers whispered. Sometimes he disappeared for days without explanation. Sometimes she would speak of waking in the night to find the bed cold, as though he had evaporated into thin air. And the strangest part, there was never a trace of him in the sunlit hours. He came alive at dusk, disappeared at dawn. One evening, curiosity got the better of her. She followed him quietly as he left the house, her feet careful on the dirt path. She saw him walk into the cemetery, the moonlight casting long shadows across the gravestones. And then, he vanished, not walked away, not hidden, vanished like smoke dissolving into the air. Her heart froze in her chest. The man she called husband, the man she loved, was not among the living. She had married a ghost. Her heart raced so violently, that night she thought it might betray her, pounding loud enough for the spirits to hear. She ran home, every rustle of leaves behind her sounding like footsteps, every whisper of wind turning into a ghostly laugh. When she burst into the house, he was already there, waiting, seated calmly in the dim glow of the lantern. His eyes found hers, unblinking, and for the first time she noticed how deep and hollow they seemed, like wells that led to no bottom. He asked where she had gone. She stammered, her tongue thick with fear, but before she could answer, he simply smiled, the same perfect smile that had enchanted her months ago, and told her to sleep. But how does one sleep beside death, dressed as a husband? She tossed and turned until dawn, when his body, once again, was gone. She thought of confiding in her family, but what could she say? That she had followed her husband into the cemetery and seen him vanish into the night. They would laugh, or worse, they would call her cursed. So she held her silence, though her silence began to weigh heavier than her wedding beads. In Nigeria, and across much of Africa, people know that spirits walk among us. Some are restless, some are mischievous, some are vengeful, and some like this one can, wear the mask of love so convincingly that even the sharpest eyes miss the truth. She remembered old stories her grandmother used to tell, of spirit husbands, of women who were visited in dreams by men not of this world, of marriages that bound not just flesh and blood, but soul to shadow. She had never believed those tales, until now. Her life slowly began to unravel. The gifts he brought her started to rot over night, yams that turned black, cloth that disintegrated into dust, jewelry that lost its shine. She stopped eating, for the food on her plate tasted of ash. Her body grew thin, her face hollowed, and the villagers whispered again. They asked why marriage had made her look older instead of younger, why her once bright laughter now sounded like a cracked drum. But she smiled, forced and fragile, because to speak the truth would mean admitting she was living in a nightmare she had chosen with her own hands. One night, as thunder rolled across the sky and lightning carved the heavens into pieces, she could no longer bear it. She demanded answers. Who was he? What did he want from her? Why had he come? He looked at her with something almost like sorrow, and then he confessed. He had died years before, taken too soon, buried without the wife he longed for. His spirit wandered, lonely, until it found her. He had chosen her not out of malice, but out of longing for love, for companionship, for the life he had been denied. His words were soft, almost tender, but they chilled her blood, because love, when bound to death, is no blessing. It is a prison. She realized then that her choices were two: to remain bound to him, living half in this world and half in the next, or to find a way to break free. But breaking free from the dead is no easy thing. It requires courage and help, and the kind of wisdom that only those who walk with spirits carry. She knew she could no longer stay silent. She would need to seek out the elders, the diviners, the healers, the ones who understood what to do when the living found themselves trapped in the grip of the dead. At dawn, she wrapped herself in a faded shawl and walked to the far edge of the village, to the hut of the oldest woman alive, Mama Nkem. This was no ordinary grandmother. She was a healer, a seer, the kind of woman people came to when sickness refused to leave, or when a shadow followed a family for too long. Her eyes were cloudy with age, but when she looked at you, it was as though she peeled away your skin and peered straight into your soul. The young bride sat before her, trembling, and poured out her story, every detail spilling like water, breaking through a cracked pot. Mama Nkem listened without interruption, her wrinkled hands moving slowly over cowrie shells that clicked and whispered against the mat. When the girl finished, silence filled the hut. Finally, the old woman spoke, her voice low and steady. "Child, you are not the first to marry a spirit, and unless you act quickly, you will not be the last to vanish because of one." The revelation struck like lightning. She wasn't alone. There had been others before her, women who had been seduced by charm that wasn't human, gifts that turned to dust, promises that withered like dry leaves. The healer explained that these spirits, often called Ndi Muo in Igbo lands, or Amadlozi in parts of southern Africa, did not always mean harm. They sought the love they lost in life, but their touch was poison to the living. It drained the body, muddled the mind, and chained the soul. To break free, Mama Nkem said, a ritual was needed, one that would sever the bond between her and the ghost husband. But rituals come with danger. A spirit clings hardest when it knows it is being cast away. You must not falter, the old woman warned, for he will try to deceive you again. He will appear in your dreams, in your bed, even in the eyes of those you love. You must remember who he truly is, or you will never be free. That night, the girl returned home shaken but determined. The house that once seemed like a palace now felt like a coffin. He was waiting for her, smiling, as though nothing had happened. But for the first time, she did not smile back. She kept her distance, her mind fixed on what lay ahead. And for the first time, he noticed. His smile flickered, his eyes darkened, and a shadow crossed his face. The days that followed were a test of will. He became more possessive, more desperate, showering her with illusions of wealth and happiness. At night he whispered of eternal love, promising her a life without pain, without aging, without death. It was tempting, terrifyingly tempting, because who doesn't long for love everlasting? Yet she remembered Mama Nkem's words, that his love was a trap, and eternity with him meant losing herself forever. The ritual was set for the following full moon. The elders gathered, drawing protective signs on the earth, lighting fires that smoked with herbs sharp enough to make her cough. She sat in the circle, trembling, while they chanted prayers older than memory. And then, as the flames leaped higher, he appeared, not in flesh, not in the handsome form she had fallen for, but in his true shape, pale, hollow, eyes like empty sockets. His hands stretched out as if begging or demanding. He called her name, his voice layered with sorrow and anger. He pleaded with her to come to him, to remember their love, to keep her promise. For a moment, her heart nearly broke. He looked so lost, so lonely, so much like the man she had once believed him to be. But the circle held, the chants grew louder, and she realized, with a sudden clarity, he was not her future, he was her grave. With trembling lips, she spoke words the healer had given her, words that cut the thread binding her to him. The spirit shrieked, a sound that tore through the night, and then dissolved into smoke. The flames bent inward, then flared, and suddenly the air was still. He was gone. The house felt different after that night. The oppressive weight that had pressed down on her chest lifted, replaced by the strange quiet of freedom. She wandered through rooms that had once dazzled her with their perfection, now plain but warm, filled with sunlight instead of shadows. Her body felt lighter, her thoughts clearer, and for the first time in months, she could laugh without it sounding hollow. It was a small victory, but a profound one. She had reclaimed her life from a force that was not meant to exist among the living. Her neighbors noticed a change too. The woman, who had grown pale and thin, who had stopped joining market festivities and village dances, began to regain her color, her strength, her spirit. Some whispered that she had been cursed and had survived. Others said she had been chosen and tested by forces beyond understanding. But she didn't care for gossip. She cared for life, and for the knowledge that she had faced something terrifying and emerged intact. Yet, even in freedom, lessons lingered. She became more careful in her dealings with love, more attentive to signs and whispers that others might dismiss. She learned that the world was filled with things unseen, that not all promises were meant to be kept, and that sometimes the most extraordinary magic, isn't the kind you see but the courage to confront what frightens you most. Her story became a quiet legend in the village. Mothers told their daughters of the young bride who married a ghost and lived to tell the tale. Fathers used it as a cautionary reminder. Beauty and charm can hide danger, and the heart must sometimes be guarded even when it longs to leap. Over time, she healed in ways that went beyond her body. She grew into a woman who could recognize the fine line between love and obsession, who could trust her instincts, and who could carry herself through life with the knowledge that she had faced death masquerading as a lover and survived. She even found real love, a man alive, whose laughter warmed her mornings and whose presence did not vanish with the dawn. But she never forgot him, the ghost, who had taught her the fragility of desire and the power of discernment. His memory lingered like a shadow at the corner of her vision, a reminder of what could happen when longing outweighs caution. And so, in a small village in Nigeria, far from the bustling cities of Lagos or the markets of Ibadan, one woman's story continues to ripple through generations. It is a story of love, yes, but also of wisdom, courage, and a delicate dance between the living and the unseen. It reminds us all that not every temptation is meant to be embraced, that some beauty can hide danger, and that true strength often comes not from fighting monsters outside, but confronting the ones that can wear the face of those we trust the most. Years later, she would reflect on her journey with a clarity only time can bring. The ordeal had left scars, yes, but it had also shaped her into a woman who understood life and love on a deeper level. She had danced with shadows, spoken to spirits, and stared into the face of death, masquerading as devotion. Yet, through it all, she emerged not just unbroken, but transformed. She became a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, courage and wisdom can guide you toward the dawn. Her home, once a place of fear, became a sanctuary of knowledge. She taught younger women to recognize the subtle signs of deception and danger, not just from spirits, but from any force that might seek to manipulate or consume their hearts. She shared stories, rituals, and protective practices, ensuring that the wisdom she had gained through suffering would not be forgotten. The village itself began to respect and honor her in ways that went beyond superstition. They recognized her as a guardian of both tradition and safety, a bridge between the seen and unseen. Even as time carried her forward, she never lost sight of what had happened. She occasionally felt a chill in the night, a shadow flickering where it shouldn't, a whisper of the past brushing against her senses. But she no longer feared it. She had learned to live alongside memories, to respect them, and to extract their lessons without letting them dominate her life. She had learned that survival is not simply about escaping danger, it's about understanding it, confronting it, and letting the experience teach you how to move forward with strength and clarity. Her story serves as a timeless warning and a powerful inspiration. It reminds us that not all love is what it seems, that desire can blind us, and that even the most enchanting presence may hide a dangerous truth. But it also teaches resilience, discernment, and the capacity to reclaim one's life, no matter how far it has been derailed by forces beyond comprehension. In her courage, we see that it is possible to face the darkest shadows, confront the unknown, and come out stronger, wiser, and more alive than ever before. And so, in remembering her tale, we honor more than a woman who married a ghost. We honor the strength of those who survived the unseen trials of life, who turned fear into wisdom, and who remind us all that the line between danger and growth, between love and illusion, is sometimes where the most extraordinary lessons lie. Her legacy whispers across generations, across villages and nations, urging us to listen, to learn, and to never forget that life, in all its mystery, is to be faced with courage, clarity, and a heart wide open but vigilant. END.